All right, welcome back. We're going to go ahead and get started and talk a little bit about what the next step is. Here I have my thumbnails just to review really quickly. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to hypothetically kind of show you what would happen if I chose thumbnail A. Again, I'm going to ask you to use your imagination a little bit. As artists, we're good at using our imaginations. And I grew up with Mr. Rogers, so I know how to use my imagination. I hope you do too if you watch Mr. Rogers, one of my ultimate favorites. Anyway, what we're going to do here is I'm going to walk you through the process so you know how to display these next. So I had my three possible thumbnails as I pointed out. Let's say I hypothetically picked a thumbnail A and I was going to paint this rainbow trout jumping up out of my bathroom sink. What I have is I have a canvas here to fit on the camera that's 12 by 12 inches. And so you can see my image here is smaller than what you're required to do. So this would be the minimum size for this assignment. But for the demo purpose, what I've done is I've actually just glued down a picture of a rainbow trout here in the interest of time. And the big thing here is I just want to show you how to prepare the canvas. So what you want to do is you want to complete your painting. And the thing I wanted to point out is you can do it in more than one segment. So if I wanted to paint some more water, something like that, I could certainly do that over here if I wanted to, line it up in multiple areas. And then when you go to hang this in your house or whatever location you choose, that's certainly a possibility. So we could say hypothetically, if I wanted some water drops or something, this is some water here too. If I wanted some splashes or whatever, I could include that here on my canvas, okay? But the goal is to have your painting be 12 by 12 inches or larger. And so let's pause real quickly there and let me talk about some alternatives. So in the lecture I mentioned masonite. Let me show you what masonite is. It's this wood that you might be familiar with. It's a particle board type substance. It's artificial. It's basically sawdust plus adhesive or some different chemicals that hold this all together. And so it's a byproduct of other woods. But it actually works really great and it's inexpensive. You can buy these at Home Depot or Lowe's, 4x8 sheets for like $20. And then you can cut them down and it's a super economical painting surface. And when I was a poor undergrad student, I painted on this a lot. Financially, it was beneficial, but I actually also really like the texture. And if you want to try something different, you could go buy, they even sell them in little, I think, 2x4 sheets as well. It's not as economical, but you could still get that. And if you have access to a saw or something, you can cut it out. And it could work really well for this assignment. What I've done here is I've laid down a layer of gesso. And so gesso is a primer that goes over the top of this. And if you don't do that, then the oil or acrylic paint that you're using will really seep into the surface and it'll take a lot of paint. Plus, this is now archival, and if I ever wanted to separate this from this wood, they could actually remove this layer of gesso and affix it to a new surface. But, that's going to outlast any of us. So that's an option for this assignment. I also grabbed a cardboard box real quickly just to show you, like, if you're ordering Amazon stuff and whatever, and you want to sculpt your own sort of trompe-l'oeil. I had, for example, when we were on the campus, a student that ended up sculpting out of cardboard a candy dispenser or a bubblegum dispenser, and they put it on one of the stands you use for the Slam magazine. That again, same sort of thing. You do need to use gesso or house primer paint. Otherwise, you're going to soak through a lot of your expensive paints. So I'm not sure how many of you are necessarily willing to do that, but I'm throwing it out there as an option. Or in the future, if you want to try out this masonite. I'm also going to attach a video on maybe more than you want to know in terms of how to stretch a canvas. And that's one project we can't do here online, but if we were grounded, that's what we'd end up doing. So anyway, here we go. We have our finished painting. So fast forward and just pretend that you've finished your trompe-l'oeil. So again, for full credit, I'm looking for more than just a light switch or a piece of wood or something like that. Try to have a phobia or a fear or something funny or clever that's going to inspire a viewer. Okay, so I have with me right now an X-Acto knife, but you could use a utility knife, any kind of sharp object, or even just a good old plain pair of scissors. So I have my canvas here to show you. This is just like the pre-stretched canvases you have, only the profile is a little bit deeper, a little bit thicker stretcher bars, but it's the same idea. This back part right here is what we call the stretcher bar. You might call it the frame, but it's not a frame. These are technically the stretcher bars. Okay, and then this is the canvas. The cool thing is you can reuse those stretcher bars over and over again. So if you completed a painting you didn't like, you could either take gesso or primer and go over the top of it if you're working in acrylic and go right over the top and start to paint again. Or you can take off the canvas and re-stretch it. So watch my video if you want to learn how to re-stretch. For this assignment, what I wanted to do is talk about how you're going to prepare and display this for your upload and submission for the credit. So now I finished my work right here. Now what I'm going to do is I could take a sharp object, razor blade. In this case, I'm just going to go right above the fish here, right? If I wanted to, I could use a razor blade. This one happens to be pretty nice and sharp. I could cut it out to the stretcher bars. Or if your image is larger than mine is, what you might need to do is turn it here and cut on the stretcher bar itself, like this, right? And then peel it all the way back. I'm just doing this for time's sake, just because it's a little bit faster. But know that you can cut from the stretcher bar section there, right? So now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to cut, and again, if you have multiple areas of the painting, you can be really careful about cutting around it to preserve it and that sort of thing, right? I'm just cruising through this thing really fast just to kind of show you one option, okay? If you want to leave it on the stretcher, I suppose you can. You can do that as well, but it might not take as good of a photo or be as realistic. So my recommendation is really to do this if you're working on a piece of canvas. Now the advantage of working on a piece of masonite or something is it's already pretty much flat, right? So if my goal was to put it in a bookcase or do something where I needed that extra rigidity that I'm not going to get from the canvas, that's what you're going to want to do. Okay, now here's what I want to tell you. These stretcher bars right here are still good. They can be reused. So I'm not going to go into great detail on how to re-stretch this because you can watch my video. But you could go to Hobby Lobby or Tacoma Artisan Craftsman or whatever, and you can just buy a piece of cotton duck canvas, re-gesso this, stretch it, re-gesso it, and you have a brand new canvas. So I wouldn't necessarily throw these stretcher bars away. If you're going to paint in the future, they're still good. So keep them and reuse them, right? Okay, so now our stretcher bars are out of the way. Now that I have my my finished work here, I could either take a razor blade or X-Acto knife or something, and I could get really close to cutting this out. So I don't think you're going to want to watch me spend 20 minutes cleaning this thing really, cutting this thing out really cleanly. So what I'm doing is I'm just doing it really quickly here, just to show you how you can prepare it. Okay. So I'm expecting a little bit better craftsmanship than this, okay? But I think you get the basic idea. So now that I've done that, I have my finished painting here. It's removed. Let's say I want to grab one more section. I'll grab that little section of the water. The reason I did that is I just wanted to show you, you can use the canvas. Let's say you wanted to paint something that was like 4 feet long. Well, you could do that real easy if you did 4 segments that were 12 inches in length, right? Put them together. So here's the water, there's my fish, and so I'm prepared to go place these above the sink where I need to place them. So what I suggest using is something like this, like a blue painter's tape, something that's not going to take the tape off, or sorry, the paint off your walls. When I do this at Pierce, I have to agree to use painter's tape so we don't damage the walls. But anyway, here I have my shape cut out, right? So I'm going to flip these over. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to take painter's tape and I'm going to go like so. And depending upon how big your painting is, or if you've added other elements to it or whatever, you might need to make several of these little tape noodles, if you will, these little tape balls that you're going to put on the top, on the back here. So all I'm doing is ripping the tape and taping it in on itself and going like this to where I have something that's going to be well supported, and use your best judgment. It doesn't have to stay up there forever unless you want to leave it up there forever. Now, if you did something really fun that your family likes, or your roommate or whatever, you know, you might want to use extra tape, and you'll be surprised they'll actually stay up for a pretty long time, okay? So here you get the idea. So as I mentioned, we're going to be using our imagination, but if you want, I could even come in with my razor blade or my X-Acto knife at this stage and cut it really clean, but I'm not going to do that in the interest of time. But let's just pretend this is the back wall by my kitchen sink or my bathroom sink. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to have the trout jumping up out of the sink. So then I would just push it down onto the back wall. Let's add a little splash like it's coming out of the sink with some water or something, right? And then that would be how I would display this. I would take my picture and then, you know what? I just noticed that's a little off camera, but I think you got the basic idea. Sorry about that. I'll move that down here. Anyway, so just gonna affix that right there so you can see that a little bit better. Now it's in camera. That was some fine camera work. Thanks for hanging with me there. Sorry. Anyway, that's how I would affix it there to the back wall. Okay. And then take a picture, upload it. You can have a funny reaction. Take a shot from a couple different angles and upload it. But I'm really going to be interested in seeing the fun stuff that you come up with for this assignment. So refer to the other student examples, but that's the basic tutorial that I wanted to show you because it's a little hard to describe that on a screencast, right? So you needed to probably see how that worked. Okay, that's it. Let me know if you have any questions. Most of all, just have a lot of fun with this. The earlier you get your thumbnails in on this one, the better, because I can give you feedback. So do notice the first 5 points come on the thumbnail portion, and the remaining points come from a job that's well crafted there, a piece of art that's well crafted. You don't have to use masking tape, but it's suggested, and even better than that is the blue colored painter's tape. And you'll probably even score some of this at the dollar store if you want. They'll sell painter's tape there in the hardware section, and you don't get a lot of it, but it's not like you need a lot to just tape it down. So anyway, start with really good thumbnails if you would. Okay, start with your good thumbnails. Finish your painting, make sure it's 100% dry, cut it out, and that's the process. Okay, friends, have fun, be creative. Please don't turn in something uninventive. Use your imagination. All right, have a good experience working on this. Don't lose sleep over it, and just try to do something funny. Okay, all right, I think we cleared all that up. Have a good time, and all my best.